Unlike nearly every other major city of the ancient Greek world, Sparta had no defensive walls surrounding it, a deliberate choice that reflected one of the most distinctive and genuinely unusual aspects of the entire Spartan social and political system. According to ancient sources, including the Spartan king Agesilaus, when visitors asked why Sparta lacked the fortified walls common to nearly every comparable Greek city-state, the response reportedly offered was that Sparta's true walls were its citizens themselves, specifically its trained warriors, whose military capability was considered sufficient defense without requiring physical fortification. Whether this specific exchange occurred exactly as later recorded remains, like much of Spartan history, difficult to confirm with complete certainty, but it genuinely reflects the broader Spartan cultural philosophy that historians studying this unique society consistently identify across the available ancient evidence. Sparta itself, located in the region of Laconia in the southern Peloponnese, developed a genuinely distinctive social and political system historians refer to as the Spartan constitution, traditionally attributed to a semi-legendary lawgiver named Lycurgus, whose actual historical existence and specific individual contributions remain subjects of genuine ongoing scholarly debate, since much of what ancient sources attribute to him likely developed gradually across generations, rather than through the actions of any single historical individual. It is worth stating clearly at the outset, much of what popular modern culture believes about ancient Sparta derives from later Greek writers, particularly Athenian sources who held complicated, sometimes genuinely hostile or, alternatively, romanticized views of their historical rival, or from even later Roman-era writers describing a Spartan society that had already changed considerably from its earlier historical form. Sparta itself left relatively few written records of its own, meaning much of what we understand about daily Spartan life comes filtered through external, sometimes genuinely unreliable perspectives that modern historians must interpret with considerable scholarly caution. This scarcity of direct Spartan source material stands in genuinely notable contrast to Athens, whose extensive surviving philosophical, dramatic, and historical writing has left modern historians a considerably richer, more directly documented understanding of Athenian daily life and thought. Sparta's own comparative documentary silence, historians note, may itself reflect the broader Spartan cultural value system, which prioritized military discipline and collective action over the kind of individual literary and philosophical achievement that produced Athens's extensive surviving textual legacy. As dawn breaks over this unusual city, built without walls but organized around one of history's most rigorously disciplined social systems, we begin tracing what an actual day within this society may have genuinely looked like. Perhaps no aspect of Spartan society has captured popular historical imagination quite as thoroughly as the agoge, the rigorous state-controlled education and training system through which Spartan boys passed from roughly age 7 until early adulthood. According to ancient sources, Spartan boys were removed from their family homes around age 7 and placed into state-controlled group living. This practice was genuinely unusual compared to typical child-rearing customs across the broader ancient Greek world, where children generally remained within their family household considerably longer, before beginning whatever specialized education their social class afforded them. Within the agoge, boys lived in organized groups under the supervision of older youths and adult instructors, receiving training explicitly designed to develop physical toughness, military skill, and unquestioning obedience to Spartan discipline. Ancient sources describe genuinely harsh conditions, including deliberately inadequate food rations, intended to encourage resourcefulness, including theft of additional food, provided the theft itself was not discovered. This taught cunning and self-reliance alongside physical endurance, presented as an intentional part of this training system. It is worth addressing a common but likely exaggerated claim regarding the systematic exposure of weak Spartan infants. The assertion is that authorities examined newborns and abandoned those deemed weak on a nearby mountainside. While ancient sources like Plutarch reference infant inspection, He wrote considerably later than the historical period he describes. Modern historians generally treat the dramatically extreme version of this practice with considerable scholarly skepticism. Archaeological evidence from the site traditionally associated with this practice does not support the scale of these popular accounts. Excavation of the site known as the apothete has recovered skeletal remains predominantly belonging to adults, not infants. This suggests the narrative of systematic infant exposure may reflect later exaggeration or misunderstanding of Spartan society. Training within the agoge extended well beyond simple physical conditioning, incorporating instruction designed to develop discipline, loyalty, and controlled aggression. Spartan society considered these traits essential for its citizen warriors, forging them into the backbone of their military power. Boys received training in basic literacy and, according to ancient sources, some instruction in music and poetry. This contradicts the popular modern assumption that Spartan education focused exclusively on physical and military training. However, this broader education received less emphasis than in other city-states like Athens, which valued rhetoric and philosophy more highly. Physical training was genuinely rigorous, including extensive athletic competition, combat training, and deliberate exposure to challenging conditions. They reportedly wore minimal footwear and clothing, even during difficult winter weather, to develop genuine physical toughness. Spartan culture considered this essential preparation for the genuine physical demands of ancient warfare. Ancient sources describe the crypteia, where selected older youths were sent into the countryside to develop survival and stealth skills. According to accounts by Plutarch, this also involved the killing of helots, Sparta's enslaved population, as part of the training. This practice reveals the sustained fear Spartan society maintained regarding potential helot rebellion, which shaped their entire military organization. Competition between training groups was central, often involving fierce rivalry and violent confrontation between groups of boys. This reflected the cultural emphasis on martial achievement as the primary measure of individual worth and social status. Those who successfully completed the agoge progressed toward full Spartan citizenship and military service. This progression involved additional formal stages and continued evaluation, extending well into early adulthood. The agoge was a multi-year process of integration, often not reaching completion until a man was in his 20s. Spartan women occupied a genuinely distinctive social position compared to women in most other contemporary, ancient Greek city-states. A difference ancient sources, including the Athenian writer Xenophon, specifically noted and, in some cases, expressed genuine surprise regarding. Unlike Athenian women, who generally remained confined to domestic spaces with limited public visibility or independent legal standing, Spartan women received formal physical education and athletic training, reportedly including running, wrestling, and javelin throwing, based on the belief that physically strong mothers would produce physically strong Spartan warrior sons, a practical rather than explicitly egalitarian justification. This reflects the broader Spartan cultural priority on military capability, shaping nearly every aspect of the society's distinctive social structure. Spartan women also held meaningfully greater property rights compared to women in most other contemporary Greek city-states, with ancient sources indicating Spartan women could independently own and inherit property, a genuinely significant legal distinction. By certain periods, Spartan women controlled a considerable proportion of land and wealth, as men's frequent military campaigns left property under female management. It would, however, be historically inaccurate to characterize Spartan women's position as reflecting modern conceptions of gender equality. Spartan women remained formally excluded from direct political participation and military service, despite their unusual physical and economic roles. Their rights rested explicitly on their instrumental role supporting Spartan military reproduction and social stability, rather than on philosophical commitment to equality. Ancient sources suggest a culture of stoic sacrifice, with mothers reportedly expected to take pride in their sons' deaths in battle. This reflected the thoroughgoing militarization that shaped every dimension of Spartan social life, extending well beyond the male citizen warriors. Understanding ancient Sparta honestly requires directly addressing the helots, the large enslaved population, whose labor formed the fundamental economic foundation, supporting the entire distinctive Spartan social and military system. Helots, whose specific origin traces to Sparta's earlier historical conquest of neighboring Messenia, worked Spartan agricultural land, producing the food surplus that allowed Spartan male citizens to dedicate themselves full-time to military training and service rather than agricultural labor, a genuinely fundamental economic arrangement, without which the entire distinctive Spartan military and social system, as historians studying this society consistently emphasize, simply could not have functioned as it did. Ancient sources describe the Helot population as considerably outnumbering actual Spartan citizens, with some historical estimates suggesting a ratio of 7 or more Helots for every Spartan citizen, a demographic reality that historians identify as directly explaining much of Sparta's distinctive, pervasive military organization and internal social control. Since Spartan authorities maintained genuine, persistent concern regarding potential Helot uprising, given this considerable numerical imbalance between the enslaved population and their Spartan citizen overseers. The treatment of Helots, based on available ancient historical evidence, involved genuinely harsh conditions and legal status considerably different from and generally understood by historians as more severe than slavery as practiced in several other contemporary ancient Greek city-states. Ancient sources describe an annual formal declaration of war against the Helot population by Spartan authorities, a practice historians interpret as providing legal justification, allowing Spartans to kill Helots without formal legal consequence, reflecting the genuinely severe, systematically maintained social control Spartan authorities exercised over this essential but perpetually feared enslaved population. This fundamental social and economic arrangement, historians studying ancient Sparta consistently emphasize, represents an essential, inseparable component of understanding Spartan society honestly, since the celebrated military discipline and battlefield reputation popular culture frequently associates with ancient Sparta existed only because of, and was fundamentally enabled by, this considerably less celebrated system of harsh, sustained subjugation over a considerably larger enslaved population. Helots did retain certain limited rights unavailable to enslaved populations in some other ancient societies, including the ability to maintain family units and, according to some ancient sources, retain a portion of their agricultural production beyond what was owed to their Spartan overseers. Distinctions historians note place the Helot system within a genuinely distinctive category of ancient bondage, sharing certain characteristics with more familiar forms of chattel slavery, while also displaying meaningful structural differences, connected to Helots' specific historical origin as a conquered, rather than purchased or captured, population tied directly to specific agricultural land. Adult Spartan male citizens participated in a distinctive communal dining institution known as the syssitia, mandatory shared meals taken with a specific assigned group of fellow citizens. This practice served genuinely significant social and political functions extending well beyond simple nutrition. Membership within a specific syssitia group required formal acceptance through a voting process among existing members. Ancient sources indicate even a single dissenting vote could exclude a candidate from admission, and continued citizenship depended on active participation. Citizens were also required to provide regular food contributions supporting the group's shared meals, which were deliberately simple and unappetizing by most Greek standards. Most famously, this included a dark broth that non-Spartan visitors found difficult to consume, reflecting a cultural rejection of luxury. These communal meals provided regular opportunity for political discussion and social bonding among Spartan warriors. They also served as informal mentorship, connecting younger and older citizens within a structure that reinforced collective values over individual wealth. Failure to maintain required financial contributions could result in the loss of full Spartan citizenship status. This economic pressure contributed to a shrinking body of full citizens, ultimately playing a role in Sparta's eventual decline. One famous anecdote involves a visitor from the luxury-loving city of Sybaris who tasted the black broth. He reportedly remarked that after tasting it, he understood why Spartan warriors showed such little fear of death in battle. This observation reflects the broader ancient fascination with Sparta's distinctive and total rejection of material comfort. Spartan military equipment and battlefield tactics, while sharing similarity with broader Greek hoplite warfare, incorporated specific elements identifying Sparta's particular battlefield reputation. Ancient sources and modern historians consistently identify these factors as genuinely significant to the unique military prowess of the Spartan state. Spartan warriors, like hoplites across the broader ancient Greek world, fought primarily within an organized phalanx formation. This tightly packed line of heavily armored infantry carried large round shields and long spears, relying on collective discipline rather than individual heroic combat. This approach required extensive collective training and mutual trust among warriors, fighting in immediate proximity during sustained, often brutal close-quarters combat. The distinctive red cloak associated with Spartan warriors, along with the characteristic lambda symbol representing Laconia, served practical identification purposes. These functioned as cultural symbols reinforcing Spartan collective military identity, contributing to a recognizable visual reputation that has persisted across many centuries. Spartan military training's emphasis on sustained collective discipline likely provided a real tactical advantage in maintaining phalanx integrity under extreme stress. This advantage contributed meaningfully to Sparta's documented success across numerous significant ancient conflicts, including the Persian Wars and the Peloponnesian War. However, Spartan military success was not absolute. Sparta experienced notable military defeats, including a significant loss at the Battle of Leuctra in 371 BC. This defeat against Thebes meaningfully damaged Sparta's dominant regional military reputation and contributed to its broader subsequent historical decline. While their dominance faded, the legacy of the Spartan warrior remains a powerful symbol of discipline and tactical unity in military history. Spartan political governance incorporated a genuinely distinctive structure, combining elements historians studying ancient Greek political systems generally categorize as a mixed constitution. It combined monarchical, oligarchic, and, to a more limited degree, democratic elements within a single, carefully balanced governmental system. Sparta maintained the genuinely unusual practice of dual kingship, with two separate hereditary royal lines simultaneously holding formal royal authority. This system developed specifically to prevent any single individual from accumulating excessive personal political power, since each king could provide a check against the other's potential overreach. Alongside the two kings, Spartan governance included a council of elders known as the Gerousia, composed of 28 members over age 60 serving lifetime terms. They were responsible for proposing legislation and serving formal judicial functions, representing a powerful oligarchic component within the Spartan governmental structure. A body of 5 annually elected officials known as ephors held significant practical authority, including formal oversight authority over the kings themselves. Ephors possessed power to bring legal charges against a king and actually remove them from power, representing a sophisticated constitutional safeguard. A general assembly of full Spartan citizens held formal voting authority over major state decisions, providing a limited but genuine democratic element. While initiative rested with the kings and Gerousia, the broader citizen assembly exercised influence by approving or rejecting proposals presented to it. This sophisticated structure attracted considerable interest from ancient political philosophers, including notably Aristotle, who studied the Spartan system analytically. Sparta's distinctive governmental arrangement generated lasting intellectual interest, serving as a key example of comparative political organization in the ancient Greek world. Despite its formidable military reputation, Sparta's distinctive social and political system ultimately proved difficult to sustain across extended historical time. The requirement for full Spartan citizenship including maintaining wealth for Sicilia contributions, created a narrowing base of citizens over generations. Land ownership became concentrated among fewer families, a trend that significantly reduced the available pool of trained Spartan warriors. Sparta's deep-rooted anxiety regarding potential Helot rebellion meaningfully constrained Spartan military flexibility and broader political ambition. Preventing internal uprisings limited Sparta's capacity for extended military campaigns compared to other contemporary Greek city-states. Following the significant military defeat at Leuctra in 371 BC and the subsequent loss of Messenia, Sparta's economic foundation suffered irreversible damage. The loss of the Helot labor force meant the distinctive Spartan social and military system never genuinely recovered its previous regional dominance. By the Roman conquest of Greece, Sparta persisted as a diminished, largely symbolic political entity, its reputation reduced to historical memory. It became a form of curated cultural tourism for Roman visitors fascinated by Sparta's reputation, even as the actual system had ceased to exist. The functioning Spartan social and military system that had created that reputation no longer resembled its earlier historical form. More than 2,000 years after its historical peak, ancient Sparta continues capturing genuine popular imagination, though modern popular understanding frequently blends genuine historical evidence with considerable later embellishment, artistic reinterpretation, and in some cases, outright historical inaccuracy that responsible historical treatment must directly address. Popular modern depictions, including notably the widely viewed film 300, while genuinely entertaining as dramatic historical fiction, incorporate considerable historical exaggeration and invented detail regarding specific events including the Battle of Thermopylae, presenting a genuinely dramatized, visually stylized version of Spartan warfare and society that, while inspired by authentic historical events and figures, should not be mistaken for accurate historical documentation of how ancient Spartan society and warfare genuinely functioned. It is also worth noting, for balanced historical understanding, that ancient sources describing Sparta themselves frequently carried genuine bias, whether from Athenian writers holding complicated views toward their historical, political, and military rival, or from later writers, including many Roman-era sources, who sometimes idealized Sparta's disciplined reputation for their own purposes, meaning modern historians must approach even the earliest available ancient source material with considerable interpretive caution. Understanding Sparta honestly requires holding multiple genuinely complex truths simultaneously. A society that developed genuinely remarkable military discipline, and for Spartan women specifically, unusual social and economic independence, while simultaneously maintaining this distinctive social system through genuinely severe, sustained subjugation of a larger enslaved population, whose labor made the entire celebrated Spartan warrior culture materially possible in the first place. The real Sparta, stripped of both Hollywood dramatization and ancient political bias alike, remains genuinely fascinating, precisely because it resists simple, comfortable historical narrative, neither purely admirable nor purely condemnable, but a genuinely complex ancient society whose full, honest historical story continues offering valuable insight to the real, often uncomfortable complexity underlying even history's most celebrated and mythologized civilizations.